Picture this. You're in front of your latest prospect, closing the biggest deal of your life. Your pitch decks were perfect. Your scripts, flawless. And when the time came to answer the golden question of, are you ready to move forward? Nothing happened. For everyone who loves sales, this is their worst nightmare. But fear not, because in this podcast, we're unraveling the enigma behind those missed opportunities. From appointments that evaporate to presentations that felt like a Broadway show but ended in awkward silence, we're dissecting it all. Welcome to Love Your Sales.
This podcast is presented by GenHead. GenHead leverages AI so small and medium-sized businesses can find their ideal clients to make more sales. Other companies talk about AI, but we are using it every day to drive down marketing costs and increase revenue. Learn more at genhead.com. That's genhead.com.
Welcome to another episode of Love Your Sales. I am joined by Eva Barbara Bongard. Eva is a business growth strategist who helps entrepreneurs and leaders boost sales through emotional intelligence and purpose-driven strategies. She's passionate about showing how empathy and authentic connections not only build trust, but also drive sustainable long-term business growth. What she does through her coaching programs and workshop, like From Heart to Impact, Building Meaningful Businesses, is help entrepreneurs align their personal value with their business strategies. Whether it's integrating sustainable practices, fostering empathy in leadership, or supporting emotional health in the workplace, her goal is to help people build businesses that thrive from the inside out. I absolutely love that, Eva. So you are not only, obviously a coach, a consultant. You also are a business owner yourself with, a creative business, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I created the Twill, and it comes as a result of my 25 years of experience in the leather industry. So I created the brand, and I went for the creative side of bringing something to life, physical product.
That's awesome. So welcome to the show. And I'm really excited about this conversation because you and I were just having, before we hit the record button, we were talking about, the difference between a creative versus a real true salesperson. And so I kind of want to revive this conversation that we were having because there are certain traits that a salesperson has to have and certain traits that a creative has. And I'd love to talk about the differences in those two things that you've experienced and how each one of those, leans into those and, finds their true passion and purpose, but how each one of those different things can hinder them when they try to cross lanes.
So thank you for the opportunity to share. So my story comes in with I created Twill. I come with a very strong background in business development, business international negotiations, and all that. So, but I had 25 years of experience in the industry, on the leather industry, and I saw also that's where my passion comes for sustainability, because there was this movement against the leather that was happening because of the animals and all that, and people were losing focus of what it's leather, and it's just a recycle. I mean, it's using the byproduct of the food industry. Mm-hmm. So that's where my sustainability enters, and I'm just going a little bit on the steps why I'm so passionate about all these. And so I enter in the sustainable practices, as the leather industry has been doing it, together with the issue is that you got to have a good communication to approach that. So as I was doing that, I wanted to create something unique, and that's where I enter into the creative part of and I wanted to create something different, not just a simple leather. I mean, it's not as simple, it's quite difficult. It's not simple at all, but not another leather accessories. And I wanted to go to what is going on in the walls, because for me, I love to see the walls, and also because here's where my empathy enters and my sensitivity, because whenever I enter to a place, if it invites me or not invites me to even have a business with them. So that's where I wanted to bring this creative part of bring the leather, which is a sustainable, into the creative part, and that's where I enter into the world. So I found myself as a very driven business person, negotiation, international, into a complete different world that it's a creative. So I have to, in 5 years that I did it, I have to kind of get myself used to the world of creating, of being a creator of physical products. So it is two different stories, and I have to even train myself into being more creative.
Right.
But I see how when you are a creator, there's a challenge to be able to bring together with the business side.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the opposite, because for me it's all driven and it's all boom 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 boom. But as I was creating the products, and as I in that, so I have to re train my mind. So, and the truth is that after all this exercise of being from a business, being a creator, my business ground is calling me back. And I just love to make the sales. I love the fast pace of that is needed in that world.
Right. And to your point, it's hard. It's really hard. You know, I'm somebody who I love art. I love to be able to sit down and I'm not great at it. Let me just premise this by saying, you know, like I'll sit down and I paint with my 7-year-olds. So I'm not saying that I'm a true true artist. I'm talking about like I'll sit down and I like to, you know, dabble in stuff. And you can lose yourself in that, right? You can lose yourself in the design, the creation of something that can just kind of wipe away the world. Like you really just can, 1 hour can seem like a minute, and all of the sudden you're there for 5 hours doing something. And you're like, what? Wait, what do you mean 5 hours has gone by? Because those true creative minds just really can get hyper focused, and time will pass without even they won't even realize it, right?
Yes.
Whereas a sales minded person, they're and again, I've lived and breathed in the world of business development, of sales, of relationship building, of that's where that's my professional life. That's where I, you know, spend the majority of my time, right? We spend the majority of our time at work. Um, and it's a fast pace. Everything is moving quickly. Everything is speeding past you all of the time, where you're not sitting in this serene, quiet, calming, creative space. You're sitting in this like everything is racing past you. And if somebody if somebody calls you and says, "Hey, I want to buy your product," it's not a "I'll get back to you when I get back to you." It's a you need to get back to that person right now, or they're going to move on to
Now,
the next person and say, "Hey, I want to buy your product," because we live in an instant gratification world.
yes. And one of the things, you know, what I find is why we get lost as creator, because I can talk to you as a business person and I can talk to you as a creator and maker, or however you, or craft, however you want to call it. It's because one, and this is where my emotional intelligence enters. And that's what I've been learning in all these 5, 6 years. And anxiety, the antidote for anxiety is to create something. So when we are very sensitive, or when we are very attuned to what is going on, empathic to what is going on in the world, we get overwhelmed with everything. So an antidote for us is to create, and you can get lost. Yes, 5 hours, 7 hours in my is creating one thing, and from one I want to create something else. So that's where it's hard to combine both. But I like the emotional, and it was until I learned that the antidote for anxiety, for everything, was creative, create something, make something.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, it's not I want to justify myself, but but it does. You get lost in
Right.
that, and that's how creators are so hyper focused in one thing.
Right. And that's, but now let's bring this down to a practical level, because there are a lot of people who are creatives who start businesses. You started a business, but
Yes.
you've taught yourself to have the ability. Well, you had both, you kind of explained that you were, a business driven person that also was a creator. That's not a typical person or a typical ability, right?
Yes.
Most people are either on the creative side or on the logic side. Those
Yes.
usually are two completely different people. And that's where we pose that, or that's where the problem comes in, right?
Oh,
So I'm person A, the creator. I start a business and I want to I want to be a marketing agency that just creates pretty little designs for my clients. But how do I figure out how to sell that when, and we were talking about this, sense of urgencies, or the that tenacity to go out and sell is just not a discipline that I'm typically used to.
it all comes to awareness. You gotta be very conscious of what is happening with yourself, and as you decide to become a business. So there's so many parts, and that's where you gotta train yourself. You gotta be open, because if we are not open, and it's much more than a mindset. It is a way of seeing things, that you gotta, because I was part of a group. Where I'm coming is because I was able to see, I was part of this group where we were maybe like eight, and they were artists. And I did not consider myself an artist, in the sense of, because maybe I did not go for school, or I don't have 20 years an experience. But the truth is that I learned that I am a creator, because I came with an idea of making leather art in frames. You know what I mean? Things
Mm-hmm.
that people have never seen many times. So, and that's where I enter in this group, and it was that the coach, the person that I was teaching them to think very business driven. Where for me, it was, I want to get I want to get their minds in the sense of being an artist. It was,
Right.
I enter I enter in a different situation than everybody else enters, because we must, if you are a business owner, you must, sales is fast driven. You got to move
Mm-hmm.
fast, and in the moment that somebody that can be a lead even breathes, it's not that you are overwhelming them, but you gotta nurture, you gotta feed that relationship.
Right.
So that's where I enter in this world, and that's where I learn also to apply the emotional intelligence. Because if we don't apply the empathy, I mean, if we don't apply the candor, we must, you know what I mean. If we are not in that state of saying things as they are, and accepting them, receiving them, and giving them, we can get in trouble.
Right. It's
We can have
so,
more challenges.
yes, absolutely. And, you know, and it's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to learn and I keep going back to, marketing. But it's not just marketing. It's one thing to go to school and say, hey, I'm going to be in marketing, and work at a company. You can stay as a creator and stay in that creation. I'm just going to do this. But if you decide that you're going to be an entrepreneur, you at that point have to learn to put on all of those hats. And I can tell you that when I'm outside of my lane, when I am doing accounting, I always go back to accounting because let me tell you, when I have to go and reconcile my accounts, I'm like, oh, this is, every minute feels like it's an hour because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Um, it's draining. It's absolute draining. So what I tell the people that I'm working with is that get into a flow of doing the activity. Eventually it will become easier and it'll become more natural so that it's not as hard. And then once your muscle movement becomes more natural, it'll become easier because we can teach ourselves to do things. And then at that point, you're able to actually tweak that to be better and make yourself better at that. But sometimes it's about just the discipline of teaching yourself how to do something. So for those creatives who are like, oh, this is horrible. I don't want to make these cold calls. I don't want to have to do this. Sometimes it's just about the discipline of doing it, then tweaking it to do it well.
Well, it's like everything, you know what I mean? Also, to become an artist, what do you have to do? I mean, an artist becomes so unique and so because they have done it so many times.
Right.
It's the repetitive task that makes the even better. So it's like that. And it's the same situation in everything. It's the consistency too. And I apply it also right now to myself, the consistency of all those creators that are outside right now. Right now, it's a world of creators, because of social media. And what they do, some of them are very successful because they were consistent. They were
Right.
doing it every single day or whatever time they decided. And I think it's the biggest challenge for creators because for me has been one of the biggest challenge, just the consistency um, of doing the task.
Yep.
It's the discipline. It all comes to a discipline.
Absolutely. And so when you work with your clients, and we're going to kind of shift back here for a second, when you work with your clients on teaching them from heart to impact, building meaningful businesses, and helping those entrepreneurs really align, their personal value, their with their business strategy, where do you step in and start to assist them?
It's number one because how many times have you heard someone that it's already making millions, but there's no happiness? It happens. It does happen quite often. So because we are so driven, we were taught that that's the normal, I'm talking, that in order to be successful, you gotta have money or wealth, or you have to have power. It doesn't mean that. For me, and I can talk personally, for me, I learned what was success until I lived it, and which was completely very different. But it was because of my story as with of my family. My daughter had a lot of medical issues that I've been sharing in my social media, and I learned that for me, success is right now that she lives medicine free. So it becomes, but it's because I had 17 years of a kid that was struggling medically, not knowing what was happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where we have to start. What is for you success, and where do you want to see yourself? And it's not, and because I so business driven, and that's where I enter, because I also, my experience is with international business, and I'm bringing it up I'm mentioning right now, because in order to become a purpose business, you got to apply emotional intelligence. And with my experience with all these international cultures, because you work with so many different ways, diverse ways of thinking, the history behind each country really matters when you're making business. So that were it helped me to dive into the emotional intelligence of the emotion of the business. And once you get your emotional intelligence in a certain way, that's when you can say, okay, this is where I want to go with my life. This is where I want to go with my business. Making money. Everyone wants to make money. We all want to be wealthier.
But you made a really profound comment, is that everybody thinks that once I make X amount of money, I'm going to be happy. And that's that is completely untrue. And I think that's the carrot that everybody chases is, oh, as soon as I make this, it's going to fix everything. And you're like, wait, is that the carrot you're chasing? Because you really need to sit down and ground yourself here and really, think about that. Is that if the pot of gold at the end is just 100% focused on the money, then you have a problem.
But if it's money, it is okay. But you have to see, once you get that goal, where are you going? Okay,
Right.
because that's what happens. You get the 10 million mark, or whatever million, or whatever amount you want. Now what? And so that's why you see many entrepreneurs right now helping others, because their business, their money, it makes them they check. So, but it doesn't make the whole purpose or that they would like to have. And that's why I lean a lot in emotional intelligence, because the awareness and the we need so much to be empathic with ourselves. Let's start with, I don't even say with others. If we don't, everything starts with ourselves,
Right.
we cannot apply it to others. So
Right.
it has to be with you.
And you made another valid point. A lot of entrepreneurs are helping others at this point, because we had the rise of entrepreneurship a couple of years ago when nobody had jobs and everybody was like, well, what do I do? And they're like, well, I'm just going to, I guess, work for myself. And what can I offer to other people that other people, the exchange of goods, the exchange of money for services? What right now will people pay me to do to help them along? And then you had all these little businesses popping up, and now all of these little businesses that popped up were so grateful that they were able to survive a time when nobody was really working unless you were deemed an essential business. And obviously I'm talking about the whole pandemic, and so all of these little businesses in these communities of people are going, well, how can I help somebody else level up, and at the same time myself level up in a community of people who care about each other? And that's where the empathy, that's where the, and in so many cases, they're not just simply chasing, again, that pot of gold. They're actually just a community of small business people growing together.
Yes.
And at the end of that, we're not talking about being millionaires. We're talking about having a true, community of people who care about each other, lifelong friendships that were built for a purpose. And that purpose has to be defined, obviously, individually by each person. But I will tell you that $1 million will not make me happy. $1 million may wipe out all my debt. But at the end of the day, $1 million is not going to make me happy if nobody has joined me on that journey. It's simply just a lonely journey to $1 million. And
that's where and overall right now we are in a moment that we gotta bring up all of our expertise, and also what is coming with AI. I mean, it's not the same that if myself, interact with AI and I bring with some information that it's good for business development, growth strategies. That if a creator, an artist, a painter comes and puts something into that's where they say the prompting is so important. No, it's the expertise of the people bringing it. It's not about the prompt. It's about who is behind it. Because or if I want to create a piece of, and I saw it because I had early access to DALL-E 3 years ago, and I was dealing with these incredible creators, unbelievable, the ones that are even supporting Meta or supporting the Snapchat. And I was bringing something for a drawing. Mine was so awful, so bad. And they were bringing these out of your mind things. And that's where AI comes, you know what I mean? So it's so important. And the only thing and this is where I lean again in emotional intelligence. The only thing that makes us unique in front of all those machines is our humanity. We got to be more human than ever. And if we are not emotional intelligence, we will be about human, telling the machine what to do. And so that's...
I totally agree. I absolutely agree on that. And I would love to continue this conversation, but we are coming to time. And you get your 30-second shameless pitch at this point. So if you want to promote yourself or somebody else, you are go ahead and get your 30 seconds in there.
Well, thank you so much for this. And as I said, I am Eva Barbara Bongard, and I help businesses to grow in international negotiations. I have that experience, and using emotional intelligence to get better negotiations and to get to your purpose life.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Eva, for joining me today. This has been an amazing conversation. You truly are just a breath of fresh air. The way that you bring those two disciplines together, it's awesome. I loved talking with you today. So thank you so much.
This podcast is presented by Accelerate Growth 45, your one-stop shop for business growth. Stop running your business like an operator, delaying wealth creation, and sacrificing your time. Instead, focus on building a valuable business asset, creating lasting wealth, and reclaiming the time you deserve. Accelerate your growth today and visit us at accelerategrowth45.com.
Thanks for joining us for Love Your Sales. For more, connect with Leanne on LinkedIn and be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a rating and review. We'd love to hear what you think. Looking for a way to take your sales process to the next level? Visit us at loveyoursales.com to find out more about how Leanne can take your organization to new revenue heights. And be sure to join us next time for more great ways to love your customers so they love your sales.